Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Star Wars opened.
You've seen it how many times?
3.
I haven't caught up yet, but I'm close.
It was a familial thing.
Was it worth it every time?
It was. It's gotten more worth it each time.
It has. There are people who have, okay, so we should tell people. We did a film board on this, and so if you're listening to this show but you haven't heard the film board, you should back it up in your feed, and you should go listen to the last episode and the episode before that, which was our interview with DC Barnes and Trent Adams, who actually were on set as the winners of the Omaze contest, the Force for Change contest, and they were on set in London and shared their story with us for a TNR short last week. And since then, there are people who are close to us, people who are friends of the show, who did not share our childlike glee with the experience of seeing The Force Awakens. Ugh. Can you believe that?
Who are these people?
Well, I don't want to out them.
I don't either, but it's just one of those things. I guess it depends on what people. I think some people were very disappointed by the fact that it does feel rehashed a little bit. It feels like take A New Hope, stir it up a tiny bit with some new people in it, and make that movie.
That's pretty much what they did.
What they did with it and what they did with those characters, I really liked. And the more I think about it, the more I really enjoy the fact that it actually feels like there's a touch of this history repeats itself element going on in this story of the Force in this universe. I like it. In
hindsight, I think I feel like they sort of had to reclaim some concepts. And recast them a little bit. And so for that...
After the prequels.
Yeah, after the prequels. I feel like they needed to take ownership again of what some of these core elements of Star Wars really were. And I appreciated that. I also think they accelerated some elements of the film in order to prepare for whatever comes next. Hundreds of films that are to follow in the universe. But this was an important film, I think, and it was... And I can't shake the experience of really enjoying it for what it was.
And it does get better every time. I find the problems that I have diminish a little bit with each watching, and my joy with everything else just increases. So I've really kind of fallen for this film quite a bit. And remember, I was the guy who had locked my little childish
you had
self
your
up
inner
in
child
my
was locked in a closet.
Locked in a closet inside my heart, and I wouldn't let him out.
Yeah.
And now I am.
You were a child. You were a man-child.
I'm the inner child, and I've locked my grown-up self in my heart. So, and now I won't let him out.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just reversed a delusion right there. You just inverted a delusion.
Something like that just happened. Yes, indeed. Yes, sir.
Well,
yes,
congratulations. Sir. I am thrilled for you and your inner child, and I'm with you. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to keep seeing it in the theater until my pre-order comes in.
Execute order pre.
I have, so. I would tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
This is The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hello.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, it's our annual dip into the Christmas spirit with Joe Dante's 1984 horror comedy, Gremlins. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com, subscribe to the show on iTunes, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you've ever seen just what happens when you feed it after midnight, you're just the sort of rule breaker who should join us on The Next Reel's Instagram, #PonyPrize, Guess the Movie Challenge.
And with that, let's head on over to Scotland and visit with Steven Smart, who's opening up a box with his own mogwai in it as we speak.
Hey guys, this week's movie was The Gift from 2015, directed, written and starring Joel Edgerton, with Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall. This week at FigFe nailed it on Image 3 and is entered once again into the Pony Prize hat. Before I go, I'd like to wish everyone who has entered this year the best of luck in the upcoming draw. As always, a new challenge starts Friday, so thanks guys and see you later.
But that's not all, Andy. That is not all. The annual celebration of the High Pony is upon us. And thanks be to the High Lord of all things Instagram that we are bestowed with such warmth and grace in all its supremacy and light. 'Tis the night that the ponies gather high on Mount Gizmo and attempt to recall the deep-hidden inside joke that started this tradition, nay, these 2,000 years ago. As they fail, as it is written, when the last candle be snuffed into darkness, the random number be plucked from the depths, and the winner once again be cast into infamy. Andy, do you have the random number generator prepared?
I do, Pete. And yes, we had 54 weeks that we did this because we had a couple at the tail end of last year. And so let me hit the button here. You ready? And the winner is number 27. Number 27, Pete, is the movie What If? And the winner is none other than Blot 2319. That's right, Ben Lott.
Wow.
Is the winner of our pony prize.
Wow. Should that even be allowed?
I don't know. It's almost like he's a part of the show.
All right, Andy, so a few statistical questions for you. First, how many times did Ben Lott enter? How many times did he win to get his name entered?
He actually only won 2 times. He won once in week 2 for Miracle on 34th Street. Miracle on 34th Street.
Very different.
Totally different.
That was actually the sequel to Boogie Nights.
And then for What If? So yeah, he only won those 2 times.
Wow. Okay, and who won? Who had their name entered the most?
Scrolling through, it looks like Glarsed actually won 9 times.
Sweden represent.
That is right. Way to go, Glarsed.
Nice. That's not all. We've decided this year to do a runner-up.
That's right, we have.
So we've got a second place.
Yes.
Completely random drawing.
And the runner-up is going to be getting a few of the little baubles. Not
a few of the little baubles.
Yeah.
Now, to find out, we should say for all the baubles we have, this is the pony prize. It's kind of a thing. It's kind of a big deal around these parties. I don't know if you've heard.
It kind of is a big deal around here.
We're kind of a big deal in terms of prizes, and so you got to go to the blog to see everything that you're going to get as a pony prize winner or a runner-up. But we will do, here we go, the runner-up based on a completely random number from Andy's own runner-up random number generator.
And the winner is number 10. Number 10 is the movie Man of the West, and that goes to Soda Pop Rocker.
Soda Pop Rocker, congratulations.
That is awesome. Yeah, so Soda Pop Rocker, you are the runner-up.
Excellent. So head over to the blog, thenextreel.com/blog, and you will find a post that details everything you're going to get, all the goodies, all the great things, and there you go. Anything else to say about that?
Just that we thank you all for playing. It's always fun doing these every week. Stephen Smart has a great time doing it, and we really appreciate him doing it, and we appreciate you all playing, so keep it up.
We love that this thing exists, even in the world.
We do. Nothing like a pony prize.
Nothing like a pony prize. Thanks for making it happen, everybody. Okay, we have a little bit of follow-up here. We've got speaking of our dear friend of the show, Ben Lott, he did write once again, with his review of last week's film, the third in our Harold Ramis series, National Lampoon's Vacation.
I used to think this movie was a comedic masterpiece. I kind of soured on it this time around. I stand solidly with Pete in loving Christmas Vacation much more. I struggle to find the heart in this one, at least to the degree I find it in Christmas Vacation. Therefore, I struggle to care very much about the characters. I'm particularly annoyed by Clark's wandering, which makes him appear two-faced after just showing how sexually attracted he is to Ellen. However, I still laugh a lot when I watch Vacation, and, unlike Pete, I love the climax in Wally World. Definitely a film that delivers laughs, just not as many as my nostalgia remembered. Your rank 27 out of 215, my rank 76 out of 215.
Yeah, I think he put it just right. Not as many as my nostalgia remembered.
I understand what he's saying here, but at the same time, I don't know. I definitely would take this one over Christmas Vacation.
All right, that's fine. Our dear friend Per Johansson writes in from Sweden, says, American Pie Dad is car salesman. Yep. Ramones in the headphones of the Walkman. Outstanding. I like smile emoticon, he says.
I think he
says, I like, and then there was a smile emoticon.
Yes.
Fun when everyone's asleep in the car. Fun movie. 7 out of 10. Sports cars to one pair for Dad. Et paron till farsa. Swedish name for the movie. Et paron till farsa. I don't know, Portuguese?
You sound Spanish.
I can't do that.
I loved our games with those guys. Guessing the titles, and one pair for Dad, I would never have guessed that was National Lampoon's Vacation.
One pair for Dad. That's awesome. Awesome. All right, Andy, it's time. Let's do trailers. going to go first because it's so feel good.
Yours is pretty feel good.
This is Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman bring us a feel-good film for the ages. Eddie the Eagle, the story of Great Britain's first ski jumper to enter the Winter Olympics. He's just a guy. He's a nerdy kid with a dream to fly, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
And does he fly? He flies. This looks absolutely wonderful. It comes from director Dexter Fletcher. We know Dexter Fletcher. We certainly know Dexter Fletcher. First of all, he's been an actor in many, many things, though he has only directed 3. He directed Wild Bill, Sunshine on Leith, and then Eddie the Eagle. I never saw Wild Bill, but I did see Sunshine on Leith. Did you see either one of those?
I haven't seen either of those, Pete. You
haven't?
Nope.
All right. Well, I quite enjoyed Sunshine on Leith. I think he's an actor of some. He's kind of a utility player. He was in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Kick-Ass, The Elephant Man, Anthony Hopkins joint. Been around for some time, and so this will be his 3rd directed film. Now that I say that he directed it, did he write it as well? No, he did not write it as well. Anyhow, so this will be his 3rd directed film. I think it looks really, really fun, and the cast is great. But beyond Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman, Christopher Walken, and let's see, some other people I don't know. A lot of people I don't know, but Taron Egerton, Hugh Jackman, and Christopher Walken, they are all in it, and I felt great watching this film.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman had a little hint of his Real Steel character in here, which that's a movie I just absolutely love. So much fun to watch. That's right. That one.
I gave you a lot of trouble about that movie, and it turns out it was really, really good.
It is really good. It's just so much fun. So, these inspirational sports movies can just totally hit me all the right way, and this looks really great. So I'm really excited to see this one. And it's weird because I watched a lot of the Olympics, but I just completely missed this story somehow. So I don't know how.
Seems like it may have been kind of a small story.
It may have been.
Better late than never is all I'm saying.
Hear, hear.
What's yours? Oh, I didn't even tell you when it's coming. February 26, 2016.
There you go.
When's yours? What's yours? Whichever.
So it's Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Pete. It's a new American comedy war film directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa, written by Robert Carlock, and is based on the memoir The Taliban Shuffle, Strange Days in Afghanistan and Pakistan by Kim Barker, who is a journalist who went over there to report during the war. And Tina Fey is in it, and this looks like a very interesting vehicle for her. It looks like it's a little blend of kind of that comedy drama war sort of stuff, and it looks like it could be an interesting move for Tina Fey to take. It's not just more of her kind of sisters type of or baby mama type of thing. And I don't know. I'm quite excited to see how this one plays out. It's got Tina Fey in it, Margot Robbie as another of the reporters, Billy Bob Thornton, who's looking just crusty and perfect to play a grumpy military guy. Martin Freeman pops up as another reporter. And Alfred Molina, with a gargantuan beard, pops up as, I don't know if he's a tribal leader or what, but he's somebody who is either from Afghanistan or Pakistan who seems to have kind of fallen for Tina Fey's character. It looks a lot of fun. It looks really interesting. It looks like it could be saying some things that are interesting about kind of the situation over there. And it also could just be funny because Tina Fey's in it. So I'm quite looking forward to this one. What did you think?
I just couldn't help but think, is this this generation's Good Morning Vietnam? It's that I got that same vibe, and I sort of hope it is. I hope that this is a film that because Tina Fey is already, she's such a player. You know what I mean? She's just classy and funny and smart, and I just really appreciate what she brings to the whole ecosystem. And I think she needs a movie like this to really land.
Yeah. She does.
I'm really looking forward to it. I know there have been some comments of wariness in and around the Flickchart group, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. I think it's going to be one to check out, and I hope she has the pull to really establish the film and the story, and I just hope it lives up to everything I hope it is.
Yeah, I do too. I really do hope that it ends up finding its audience and making some waves for her.
Did you say when it is?
It comes out March 4th.
I'll get in line right when I'm done.
There you go.
Andy, it was snowing outside. The house was freezing, so I went to try to light up the fire. That's when I noticed the smell. The firemen came and broke through the chimney top, and me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird. Instead, they pulled out my father.
Billy Pelser has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him...
You're going to like this. No, don't shake it. We're going to have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
The most unusual gift he ever got.
What is it? No.
It's your new pet.
Come on, Barney, be a good dog. My dad gave it to me.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never let them eat after midnight. Because when they do, they change.
Gremlins, Andy. Gremlins. 1984 film from director Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus. Starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Don Steele, Susan Burgess, Scott Brady, Corey Feldman. Love Corey Feldman.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget Harry Carey Jr.
And Howie Mandel.
And Howie Mandel, that's right. Nice.
Did you say Polly Holliday? I'm
sure I did in my head. I didn't in my mouth. This was old Mrs. Deagle. This is our Christmas film.
This is our Christmas film, yes.
There was snow in the movie, and therefore it's our Christmas film.
And a Santa hat.
And a Santa hat, and a horrible urban legend about Santa in a chimney. And so here we are with Gremlins. This comes from, it has kind of an interesting pedigree. It comes from, produced by Steven Spielberg. Was it the first Amblin Entertainment?
This was not
picture?
The first of the Amblin films. It was very early in the Amblin films. I believe it as actually third, because I think, I want to say it was at Neighbors? Or no, Continental Divide. I knew it was one of those. That was the first one that he did back in 81. And then E.T. was in 82 and Gremlins
Obviously.
was 84. But even though this, I think, is the first one with Amblin with the actual Amblin logo. Or did they play the logo at the very end? I can't remember.
They did play the logo, yeah.
Yeah, because that, obviously, that iconic image of Amblin with E.T. on the bicycle with Elliot wasn't actually around when they did Continental Divide. And technically it was around in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but not as an actual logo.
Right. So I had not seen this movie in some time. Had you seen it recently? Is this one you put on fairly often?
I hadn't. No, not recently.
All right. So we have now watched it. And I think you were, when I said we were doing the film for the thing, my wife said, "Ugh, I hate that movie." And I didn't know what she meant. Because my memory of it was really strong. I remember having a ball at this movie. I thought it was just the perfect mix of horror and comedy. I thought they just nailed it. It was very much of the time. I remember that was kind of a thing that we were just getting used to, is horror comedy right around in the middle 80s. But I remember being very excited about it. Mostly I remember having an unbelievable crush on Phoebe Cates.
Oh, yes.
And so there we are. So I haven't seen it in many years. I
hate it when you begin this way.
And I'm going to tell you, I still enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. It did not live up to my nostalgia, but I didn't hate it at all. I had a good time watching it. I found it funny in parts that I know were not intended to be funny. It was very dated. But just the mechanics of the puppetry and the is the things that didn't hold up over time. I was super disappointed in the music, but not the music. I was disappointed in the execution of the music. I've been listening to it all day, to the soundtrack, and I hadn't put it on in a long time. I was really disappointed in Jerry Goldsmith's execution, and I would love to hear if I don't want a remake of Gremlins, but I do want a remake of the score.
Wow. I love this score. This is one of my favorite Jerry Goldsmith scores.
And I would agree with you if it wasn't so stupid electronic in so many important places.
See, I think it fits perfectly for the film. It just has this kind of weird vibe that works well for these creatures, I think. I mean, Gremlins, the actual gremlin creature, were little initially in the time of the World Wars and the aircraft and stuff. They, people would say that these were little creatures that would cause mechanical issues in aircraft, and it was kind of one of the. I don't think it originally originated with aircraft, but certainly during World War II, it became quite a big thing. All the aircraft divisions said that, it's watch out for the gremlins when they get into your engines and stuff. It causes they cause issues, and they would kind of attribute any problems that happen to gremlins. And because
in fact,
of that,
you can see if you go to YouTube, if you want to see the interpretation of this. And this was a little rat hole I happened to find myself in today. You can actually watch the original Looney Tunes Falling Hair Bugs Bunny cartoon about gremlins in a World War II bomber.
Absolutely. And because of that kind of mechanical nature, I think that the electronic music actually works really well for this film.
I hear you. But don't you think, as you're listening to it, don't you find yourself thinking, God, this would be so great if they just executed it with a full, rich symphony?
No. I think,
God, you're so wrong.
I think the music is so perfect. This is one of the few electronic scores that I think is just so right on the money. I think everything is perfect the way that it's executed.
It's one of those that is super catchy to me. When I hear it, it becomes such an earworm. It's imminently singable, right? The theme, the Gremlin rag. The themes, but the Gremlin rag and the Mogwai whistle. I mean, they're all really
even Mrs. Deagle's
easy
theme.
To get in your head. Yes, it's all great music, and I just want it. I want to hear it in a rich, complete. It just feels incomplete to me. And I think for me, that's one of the things that hurts the film. It just makes it sound a little bit too cotton candy, or too Escape from New York.
Well, but the thing is, it was the time, and Escape from New York, that was just a low budget movie. This was not necessarily a low budget movie.
Yeah, this was done with intention, right?
Right.
I mean,
it was
that.
Purposefully done this way. And again, I think there was a lot of thought put into doing it this way, as opposed to something like what John Williams could have done, or even Jerry Goldsmith using an orchestra. Which, I mean, there is some orchestral bits in here, but I think for the most part, it's that electronic stuff that
it's electronic in just the worst places. And I think you're absolutely. That's the thing that makes me a little bit bitter about it, is that it's Jerry Goldsmith, and Jerry Goldsmith is capable of so much more in terms of execution. And so that's one of the things I found frustrating. So.
On that, we'll forever disagree, because this is just I listen to this soundtrack and it just makes me so happy. I just think this music is so fun. So we'll forever disagree on that point.
You can have it. This was this as you started to say, this was a film that's been in the queue for It was in the queue for 40 years. Warner Brothers wanted to do this for a long time. Disney wanted to do this for a long time, and they just never kind of got around to it until...
not this one. I don't think Disney
not
wanted
this
to do this
specific
one.
film.
They wanted to do something about Gremlins.
But a film about Gremlins.
I think they wanted to do based on Roald Dahl's book from the, was it 40s or whenever Roald Dahl?
Yeah, yes. I don't have that in front of the exact date in front of me, but you're right. And so
43.
That this is the film that actually got made. Is a bit of a celebration, as long as the concept had been floating around. Let's start with Chris Columbus's script.
Yeah, this is kind of, Chris Columbus hadn't been around that much by this point. This is definitely early in his film career. I mean, he had gone to NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, and I think I don't know how he kind of came on to onto this group, but he had written, I think this was actually a script that he wrote to show what he could do. And I don't think he ever intended this script to get made, is kind of what I heard. And what is interesting about that is this script actually was a much darker script. The mom gets her head cut off by the Gremlins, and when Billy comes home, mom's head comes bouncing down the stairs. The dog gets eaten by them. They go into a McDonald's, and instead of everybody eating burgers, they're all eating people. And there's just so much dark stuff happening. And I think that tone was what captured people's attention. They kind of liked that, what was going on in the script, but they didn't want to make it as nearly that dark. And I think that Joe Dante, who had come off of The Howling most recently, was already kind of balancing some of that dance between the horror elements and the comedy elements. You saw it kind of in his Jaws spoof that he did of Piranha, which actually Steven Spielberg, that's what caught Spielberg's attention. And because I think Universal actually wanted to sue for that film, and but he saw it and it's just like, oh no, it's actually really fun. They're kind of just making fun of it. And so he totally got it. And then from there, Dante went on to do The Howling, which has never been one of my favorite films. It's just not something that I've ever clicked with, but it was enough, and for him to continue kind of this vein of kind of that comedy horror, which he really developed here. And this was really his first opportunity to do something that was with the studio and much bigger budget. And he continued that vein with the comedy and horror, and it certainly is something that he's kind of developed over his career. He really enjoys both of those. And Chris Columbus, on the other hand, he wrote early on in his career, and then, of course, that moved him into directing in 87 with Adventures in Babysitting, and he's gone on from there. But yeah, he did Reckless and Gremlins in 1984, and then The Goonies and Young Sherlock Holmes in 85. So that's the early start of Chris Columbus before he started doing really schmaltzy movies.
So apart from the, dare I say, apart from the John Hughes-esque transition of Chris Columbus, it just really reminded me of our Vacation 58 discussion, that incredibly dark sort of exercising of demons in his Columbus's original script, into the final. It was interesting, and we've got the little Amazon thing at the end, and the Amazon reviews, I think, are really illustrative on a central point here, which is the period that this film came out. The transition from comedy to horror surprised some people. It surprised enough people that we saw change in the whole industry in this year. Did it strike you as too violent enough to lead to a change in the rating system?
I saw this several times in the theater when I was a kid, and I don't think I ever thought that it was horribly over the top or anything like that. My parents took me several times, so they must not have been that disturbed by it either.
Or terrible parents.
Or they're just terrible parents, that's right. Actually, I think my dad, this was a point when my dad would take us to movies, and then he would usually sleep through most of them. So he probably missed all of the stuff that was pretty horrifying. I looking at it now, by today's standards, I don't think it's that bad. I think that PG-13, I can see why this and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the two films that came out in 84 that really created the PG-13 rating, I don't know if by today's standards this would need to be PG-13, but back then I could see why. I mean, this sort of... It was really two scenes. It was the gremlin in the blender and the gremlin in the microwave. Those two moments were so disgusting and over the top that people were pretty disturbed and felt, this was definitely more than a child should have seen. And but I guess that's why they call it parental guidance, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is one of those things where we already had invented a solution to this problem. We just let it slip. And I think parental guidance was enough.
Yeah, exactly. G is for general. PG, parental guidance. It's like, if you're a parent, it's your decision to guide your child to this movie or not.
Yeah.
So
I'm sort of with you, although I did find myself a little bit surprised when I had forgotten the blender bit, and just how dominating a force the mom was in the kitchen.
Oh, she's great.
Man, when she hauls off and starts stabbing the gremlin on the counter, get out of my kitchen. I found that really great. The mom played by
Frances Lee McCain.
I thought she was just terrific.
She was in Stand By Me too. A few years later,
yeah,
she was the mom there.
All right, let's talk a little bit about our hero, Zach Galligan.
Zach. He was great. This came out at a time when I was really connecting to movie characters, and I really connected to Billy. I mean, he was older than I was at the time, but I still really he was definitely my surrogate for this film, and I was just right there with him. I wanted my own Mogwai. I was pretty confident that I could have taken a much better job of caring for my Mogwai than Billy did.
Yes.
He is the worst pet owner.
He is the worst.
So bad. Oh my goodness. From his dog, who he loosely ties under his desk, and taking care of his Mogwai, which he clearly can't. Even when he knows the rules, and even when the water spills on it, they don't do...
He takes it to a guy and teaches it how to break the rules.
Right. And when Gizmo is laying on his desk, floundering in pain with all these things popping off of his back in the water puddle, he doesn't even pick him up. It's just like, dude. Oh.
Yeah, it's not, he's terrible. He's terrible.
He is terrible.
He's the worst.
But he was great as Billy, and I actually really connect with him still. I think that he's a lot of fun as this role. I think he works well in this and the sequel. I think he worked well in both of them. It's interesting because it's not a film that it's hard to look at this film and kind of analyze and break down and say, okay, so where's the story arc and who's the change character here? I mean, I don't really think there's enough of that sort of stuff in this story. I mean, because Billy doesn't really change. He doesn't grow. If anything, he maybe learns his lesson for having screwed up so royally. But even by the end...
I think even that is a difficult case to make.
I do too, especially because Gizmo has to kind of help him get out of it.
Yeah.
And at the end, when the old Chinese man is walking out, he's just like, oh, maybe one day you will be ready. It's like, I don't know what...
Implying you are clearly not ready now.
Well, and it's like, I don't know what gave him the impression that one day he would be, other than the fact that Gizmo liked him. But that's what was great about him as a surrogate character, because as a young boy watching this, I wasn't paying attention to those sorts of things. I was just really enjoying it, and I wanted to be Billy. I wanted to believe that the grandfather would say to me, one day you will be ready. And so I was like, one day I'll be ready to have my own Mogwai.
Yeah, and then you never stopped and asked the question, like, what about today?
Right.
Because we never earned today in this movie, and that, it's moderately unsatisfying in that area.
Oh, it is. But this, like I said, this is not a movie that I think you watch for that. This is a movie that you enjoy because it's a Gremlins movie. It's a little monster movie. It's just silly. It's this comedy horror. It's something that you just can't take too seriously.
That's the truth.
Which they really amp up in Gremlins too.
Which I don't remember at all.
I want to watch that again. I haven't seen it since it was in the theaters, and I vaguely remember it, and I remember enjoying it enough, but not as much as I enjoyed the first one. So,
did everybody come back for that?
I know he and Phoebe came back, and Dick Miller came back, and there's a Donald Trump. It's actually kind of funny because there's a Donald Trump-like character in it. John Glover, he plays Daniel Clamp, the eccentric billionaire. Christopher Lee is in it. And I think some of the characters, the voice characters, I think, come back. But not like the parents and stuff like this. I think this is later. Billy is living in New York, I believe.
Mm.
So
Yeah, they've taken total control over the building of a media mogul.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm not that excited about it.
But what I loved about it is that they actually created that movie to be a purposeful spoof of what people expected out of sequels. And so I thought that was a very smart thing to do, especially for 1990. So that's what makes me want to watch it again.
Wow, this cast. Maybe I never even saw it. I mean, beyond Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, and John Glover, Robert Prosky, Robert Picardo, Christopher Lee, Haviland Morris, Dick Miller, Jackie Joseph, and Getty Watanabe.
Right. Not to mention cameos up the wazoo. There are lots of cameos in that one.
Okay, well, there'll be a late night some night.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, Phoebe Cates.
Boy, who didn't fall in love with her after this movie?
I've never met anybody that would fall into that category.
It's funny because
Were you not really asking? I couldn't tell if that was literal.
It's funny because I had never seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High by the time I'd seen this. That was definitely not a film that I would have been allowed to watch.
No. No.
So I saw that years later and probably past the point where it really would have meant something to me. So this was my introduction to Phoebe Cates, and I was pretty much just head over heels for her from this point on. This was,
boy, this was the year.
Oh, yeah.
When I, started having these surrogate crushes on, movie characters.
Right.
And boy, she was at the top of the list.
Yes, indeed. Is she still married to Kevin Kline?
I don't know.
Because they met when she auditioned for The Big Chill before this. And even though he's 17 years older than her, in 1989 they got married. And I feel like because she's kind of retired. I think that after 2001, she's kind of left the business. And I think it's just settled down with him.
They're still married. They have 2 children.
Yeah, there you go.
Really, really happy for them and their family, but 1984 was a tough year for me. Just saying.
Yes, indeed.
She's the girlfriend. She plays the girlfriend, and she's, one of the things I actually like about her is she's not completely, totally helpless, even though there are a lot of scenes of them running where he grabs her hand and they run together. He runs in front of her, it's that sort of dragging her to safety.
Yep.
And that's one of those behaviors that doesn't hold up quite as well. And in fact, I love that speaking of Star Wars, that they make such fun of that repeatedly.
Right. Why do you keep grabbing my hand?
Why do you keep grabbing my hand? I can run. But she does hold her own in the bar, and she's...
she holds her own, and I like that they actually use her as a character that's kind of integral to helping figure out how to stop Stripe at the end. She's not just, defenseless with Stripe coming to kill her or anything like that. She is actually active in trying to use the tools presented to her to stop him. And I like that they integrate her into that.
Arguably more useful than Zach, who ends up getting pummeled by Stripe, shot with an arrow until he is rescued by Gizmo.
Right. Yeah. I think that in the scale of people who are the most effective,
he is at the bottom.
He's the least.
His dad was more effective, and he wasn't even there.
Oh man!
So poor Zach. He was written poorly in that.
He actually, the original script, he is the one. He dives over the bushes, and he's the one who grabs the blinds and pulls the thing to release the light onto Stripe. But Steven Spielberg said, "You know what? I think people want more of Gizmo here, so let's have Gizmo come in and do that." And so that is the thing that kind of killed Billy's big finale there.
Well, and did you say already that in the original script it was Gizmo that turned into Stripe, that we didn't have a Mogwai?
I didn't.
We didn't have a Mogwai until, again, Spielberg said, "That's going to be a mistake."
No, we did. We had a Mogwai. It's just
no, we did. But at the end of the movie, we didn't have a Mogwai.
Right.
He had turned into Stripe and
to kill
become the bad guy. And so it was, but the I think wise judgment was, look, people are going to they're going to think this thing is cute. They're going to want to connect with it the entire time.
They want
for the duration of the film.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that was good.
Smart signs of Spielberg's producing prowess.
Yes. I had not, my kids haven't seen this movie. Have yours?
Yeah, I watched it with them. And
you did?
Yeah, and Olivia thought it was, she had no problem with it. She was, were you scared at all? Did you think it was gross? And she definitely was grossed out by some of the scenes, but she did not get scared at all. Parker, on the other hand, was definitely scared.
Well, I was running late, and so didn't have time to sit down with both of my kids to actually watch this at the same time. But I did tell my daughter speaks Chinese, and so she, I said, no, it's about this little creature named Mogwai, and it's the cutest little adorable. She says, no, it's not. I said, what do you mean? She said, Mogwai? I said, yeah. She said, yeah. Why would they ever make a movie about a cute thing named Monster or like Horrible Ghost? Like, why would they ever say that?
That's funny.
I don't think I want to watch that movie. So I don't know. We'll see if I can talk her into it.
That's funny.
But anyway, I look forward to watching it with them at some point. I just hope I hope they haven't outgrown it.
And speaking of Phoebe Cates, though, for people who are going to put this on because they want to watch it with their kids, be forewarned. Phoebe says something. There's a line that she says that you do not want your kids to hear. So
that's the truth.
Yes.
We won't say it here.
No.
In case you're listening with kids.
But yeah.
Wow.
If you want to know what that line is, just send us a note on Facebook or somewhere, and we'll tell you what that line is. Just don't let your kids see it.
If you've forgotten and you have kids of a certain age.
Watch it first before you show it to them. Before we leave Phoebe, we have to mention her speech, which is quite an issue of contention with this film. That speech, which you quoted at the beginning.
It's my favorite part of the film.
I love it. I think it's a great part of the film. It's got this darkness. It's got kind of a slightly comic edge to it and everything. It is the thing that really stands out to me as this moment in this film. And everybody hated that moment. When they would do test screenings of that, people would say, oh, I loved it, but man, that speech is horrible. Cut that. And all of the people at the studio wanted to cut it. But Joe Dante said, no. It's the perfect blend of the comedy and the horror. It's perfect. It's kind of the essence of this film. And everybody was trying to get him to cut it. Every time they would screen it, they would say, just everything's great. You just got to cut that one scene. And finally, these people were going behind his back to Steven Spielberg, telling Spielberg that he had to make Joe take it out. And so Spielberg talked with Joe, and he's just like, look, everybody wants me to tell you to take this thing out. Do you really want it in there? And Joe's like, yes, it is the core of what this movie's about. I really want it. And Spielberg's like, well, I don't like it, but it's your movie. So if you want it in there, then it stays. And thank goodness, because not only did it give a great moment to this film, but it gave Gremlins 2 one of its funniest scenes, which is when they spoof that scene.
They actually spoof the sequence?
They spoof that entire thing. She has this whole second moment right there in that film where she's talking about, I can't remember what holiday it is, but she has a spoof about how she hates that holiday because somebody that she knows died on that holiday. It's such a great moment.
That's awesome. Maybe I just never, I say I don't remember Gremlins 2. I think it's becoming more clear that I've never seen it.
Well, we should watch that. And
is it a Christmas film?
It's not. It's whatever other holiday
she's talking about. Okay. I feel like so maybe we need like an Arbor Day.
It's like Washington's birthday or something like that. It's really funny.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so do we have other cast members you want to talk about?
Well, just running through the list real quick. Dick Miller.
Hoyt.
Hoyt Axton.
Hoyt Axton.
Well, how funny is it that he acts in some of these movies like this and The Black Stallion and stuff, but then he's this guy who's this like country music legend who wrote songs like Joy to the World.
He is a phenomenally talented guy, and he has been around forever. It's just so funny to see in this movie because from the very beginning, I think the opening sequence is one of my very favorite because it opens in Chinatown and it's a very noir kind of feel. And he is a very noir kind of character until you realize he's an absolute, He's just a nutty professor. He's a bumbling kind of doofus trying to sell the bathroom buddy in a ancient Chinese gift shop, which is hysterical. So anyhow, I think he's just a wonderful part of this film. The thing that I like so much about him, his demeanor is such that you just get the feeling, man, that's exactly what he's like in real life. Like there is no acting going on. It's just like that's all he's capable of is being himself.
Absolutely. And some of my favorite little bits in this are when he's at the inventors convention.
Yes.
And you see him on the phone, and that's where there's like Steven Spielberg rides by on a little reclined bicycle in a thing. Jerry Goldsmith is on the phone behind him in one scene, and Robbie the robot walks by. And I love the bit where you see the time machine from the old movie. You see that behind him, and then when you cut back, it's gone. It's just like funny little bits like that Joe Dante's throwing in, I think are so fun. But yeah, Hoyt Axton is just great in all those scenes. So yeah, he's definitely
great.
One to note.
Who else?
Polly Holliday, we already kind of mentioned as Mrs. Deagle. She's fantastic.
Did we talk about her? When did we talk about her?
We only loosely talked about her because she was in Alice, which we talked about from Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Right, that's why.
I don't think we actually talked about her, though, in anything.
She's a horrible person in this movie.
Oh, God, she's good.
I love how she goes. So she goes. She's the Gremlins have their way with her mechanical wheelchair elevator. What are those called?
Mechanical wheelchair elevators.
Well, you always were the knower of things.
I do know these things.
And she got on it at the first. It's this big spiral staircase, and she gets on it, and she pushes the button, and she shoots off like a rocket. And is thrown out the second story window and to her death. And that's one of my favorites because it actually capitalizes on one of my deepest childhood fears. Because we had an older relative who had one of those things, and the first time I saw her going up on the elevator, I thought, "What if that went haywire and you were shot out the window upstairs?" And I must have been 5.
It's like you wrote this scene, Pete.
It's like I wrote this. So this is clearly I'm not alone in being terrorized by mechanical chair elevators. But it's easily my favorite death in the movie is Mrs. Deagle's.
Oh, it's great, especially because she's just such a despised
She's horrible.
character. And I love that all of her cats are named after different types of currency.
I know. Old $1 bill.
$1 bill. Klopek or whatever. Oh, so funny. Yeah, she's great. Corey Feldman, you already mentioned. This was early in his career. I think this was, if not one of his first films. I know he had done The Fox and the Hound as a voice actor before this, but I think this was one of his first big roles. I shouldn't even call it a big role, but a noticeable role where you go, oh, okay, that cute kid from there, let's put him in Goonies. Let's put him in Stand By Me.
Wow.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Right. Lost Boys, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first one I feel like I actually noticed him.
Not in Goonies?
No, I mean, because I don't know, because when did those come out?
They were practically
compared
back
to one
back.
another.
I mean,
practically back to back.
Goonies was 85, and
this is 87.
Lost Boys was 87. Yeah.
I don't have a memory of him as an actor from seeing Goonies, just as a character.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it was the Lost Boys that I actually feel like that was when I first noticed him as an actor and started kind of putting names to films.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. And then of course we got caught up in all the Corey stuff.
Oh yes. The Corey stuff.
The Coreys.
Yes.
And that's, I was of a certain age. I'd pop that collar. I would pop that collar. Seriously. I would do the double pop.
Yes. We would all do that.
What was it? What'd you do with your
terrible fads?
What would you do with your jeans? Would you
fold them over and then roll them up?
You fold them over. What's that called? You pike your did you pike your there's a word for it. You do something to your jeans.
I don't know. Somebody who's listening is going to have to write us in and tell us because I can't remember either.
Yeah. What is the thing that you do with your jeans when you fold them and roll them?
Plank? It's not plank.
You don't plank. No, you definitely don't plank your jeans. No one would plank anything in the 80s.
Pleat.
No, that's not a thing either. That word was already used for pants.
I don't remember.
You have pleated pants. You can't pleat a pleated pant.
That just gets complicated.
And mean a second thing. You can't do that. I know somebody knows.
Yes, tell us
who was there,
and
they were
it's desperation.
That's right. That's right. They were listening to the Footloose soundtrack and watching The Lost Boys, and they were doing something to their jeans and popping their collars.
There you go.
Of their iZods.
What was it?
Anyway,
Luke played grandfather in this. He actually was number one son in the old Charlie Chan films. Way back in the old days. And then I think he was also in some of the Green Hornet stuff. So yeah, he had been around for a very long time. And by this point, he was definitely late in his career, although he kept acting through the 80s, and he was in Gremlins 2 as well.
We talked about some voices. You already mentioned Howie Mandel.
Howie Mandel is Gizmo, and he's fantastic as Gizmo. He doesn't sing the Gizmo song. That's a little girl, I think, from Jerry Goldsmith's church or something like that. But yeah, Howie Mandel is great as the lead of our good guys. And then Frank Welker, we've talked about him.
Just talked about him.
What was it that we just talked about him? And it was Totoro. He was Totoro. And then did you look through the list of the other people who played the voices?
Yeah, like Don Steele and Marvin Miller were voices. They were the radio voices.
Michael Winslow. Do you remember Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies?
Oh yeah, he was the sound effect guy.
He's the sound effect guy. Yeah, he was one of the Gremlins. Or these guys ended up doing a lot of different voices for these Gremlins. But yeah, he was that guy who would be like the helicopter and the police car and just all the cool sound effects. That was him, Michael Winslow.
Totally.
He was one of them. Bob Bergen, we talked about actually. He was the Lupin the Third.
That's right.
In the Castle of Cagliostro. Yeah, he was some of the voices here for them. Fred Newman, who I remember as this kind of another sound effects guy. He was on some Nickelodeon show when I was a kid, and he would do these little bits about sound effects. And I had some books of his to do sounds with my mouth and all sorts of cool things. I always thought he was so cool.
I'm sort of surprised you didn't start with Michael Sheehan.
You are?
Because he was a voice in one of your very favorites, the original Jem and the Holograms.
Oh, Pete.
He played Rio Pacheco in Jem Truly Outrageous.
That is very funny. I should have known.
You should have. I mean, you should have. Anyway, yes, and finally, Bob Holt was also in it. Another 108 credits for old Bob Holt.
A lot of sound stuff there, yeah, and
a lot of sound stuff.
And then I think Mark Dodson did some too. Mark Dodson and Peter Cullen. Oh, and Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, also did.
That's right.
Yeah, so quite a number of...
What was Frank Welker in the Transformers? He was also a big Transformers
He was Megatron
guy.
And...
Galvatron, right?
Yeah, a couple of those, the bad guys, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and Soundwave and Skywarp and Mixmaster and Laserbeak. And look at that.
He does all sorts of crazy sounds. He's a crazy sound guy. I love the stuff that he does, yeah.
I do remember this era for Howie Mandel. Like, you would see him on a talk show, and this was the only voice he would use for like 5 years straight.
I don't know if this led into his Baby Stewie or Baby Stewie led into this. I think it was Baby Stewie first. He doesn't do those on America's Got Talent.
No, thank God.
But this was back when he was kind of that comedian. I remember seeing him on comedy shows. And that was back when he had hair, too. Let's see, Harry Carey Jr. pops up in here. He's just kind of famous from the days acting back in the John Ford films and everything. So he's been around forever. Jonathan Banks, our favorite addition to Breaking Bad.
Oh, sure.
He's the deputy, remember?
Yeah. Well, and we haven't talked about our dear friend that we just talked about last week, Judge Reinhold.
Judge Reinhold, of course.
2 weeks ago.
Judge Reinhold pops up in here, and he had a bigger part, and he actually in his bigger part he locks himself into the safe in the bank to protect himself from the Gremlins.
That was his big claim to fame.
Yes, it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then Edward Andrews is the bank boss, and he's a face that's pretty well known. But I think he had done a ton of stuff, but the only thing that I really remember him as is the grandfather in 16 Candles.
Wow.
He's the one who...
No, I did not remember that.
He's He's like, Long, where is my automobile?
Automobile?
That's like the only thing I really remember him as, sadly.
Oh, that's good.
Dick Miller pops up in, geez, I feel like he pops up in all of Dante's films. I think that they just go way back. So I think you can find him in pretty much all of them. Mm-hmm. And Glenn Turman. The interesting thing about Glenn Turman, he's the high school teacher that Billy brings the Mogwai to.
Yes.
He actually auditioned for the part of Han Solo back in the day. And George Lucas apparently had him in mind for the role, but felt that there might be too much controversy at the time between a white Princess Leia and a black Han Solo. Back in the 70s, I guess that's what, people had problems with that. And so, yeah, he didn't get the part, obviously. But I thought that was really interesting. And I wonder if he had actually been offered the part at any point of Lando.
That's crazy.
I know. Isn't that nuts?
Well, he was just in, what did we just see him in? He was a couple of years ago. He did Super 8 and John dies at the end, right in the... right back to back.
Who's he in Super 8?
I was a big fan of Super 8. It was Dr. Woodward.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So it was good to see him pop up again, and crazy because he's one of those guys who, as he aged, he really didn't age all that much. Like his face didn't change. It just sort of got sandy, like the texture of his skin changed, but his shape didn't change. So he just looked young and shiny in this movie. And it was crazy.
Yeah, it's funny seeing him here.
The sets, had a nice sense of homey familiarity.
They sure did.
Thank you, Universal Backlot.
I know. It's like I was waiting for Marty McFly to drive by.
Yeah, that was. I could have used that. So this was the main strip. This was the movie theater that blows up. Is the movie theater that blows up when Marty drives a DeLorean through it. So it was very much the downtown of, what was it, Hill Valley, California, and so it was very charming. Felt like I already knew my way around.
I know, it's a perfect little square, and I mean that's just two of the films filmed here. I mean, geez, you go through, and I mean you can find spots where Rebel Without a Cause was filmed here, where John Ford filmed some movies here. I mean, so many people filmed in this backlot. There's so much movie history in this area here. So it's. Do you know anything about that backlot? I mean, does it still stand? I think so. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say because I actually don't know, but I assume it does. I just I'm trying to think of a movie I saw filmed there recently.
Like recently. Yeah.
Man, I can't.
Makes me. What was the one that was mostly black and white? That was probably 20 years ago now. The whole thing was about introducing color back into
Pleasantville.
Pleasantville was that. That seems like it would have been filmed in a place like this.
It does. I can't remember though. I can't remember. But yeah, this was Universal's backlot, but this is a Warner Brothers film, so I guess they were just
sharing it out.
Buddy. Yeah. Chris Wallace. We definitely need to talk about Chris Wallace and his effects that he did here. The puppetry, I really enjoy the puppetry. I am finding myself more and more to, when I think effects are done in a film, I can really just buy into them. It's as long as they're done pretty well, I can really just find it easy to accept as reality. Whether it's puppets or CG, I can kind of just roll with it and really get into it. I think the puppets work really well for a 1984 film. I really enjoy watching them. I think that they're great design. I think the Mogwai and the Gremlins themselves are all such fun creatures to watch. And I think that they just really do some fun stuff with them. And this was one of those films where they had a huge amount of pre-pro developing these creatures. I think it was 7 months trying to develop them and figure out how to make a move and all sorts of stuff. And even then it was just still like, down to the wire every day as they were trying to do it, and always kind of panicked, trying to make sure that they could actually get stuff done in time. So he created all the different creatures here, and then went on to do Enemy Mine and The Fly 2, Arachnophobia, just all sorts of stuff.
And I don't know, is Carol Wallace his wife or his daughter? And Mark Wallace, I assume, is his son?
I don't know.
They're both on the Creature crew.
Ah.
They also played Gremlins.
Nice.
Yeah. I I wanted to talk about John Hora.
Yeah?
Hora?
I don't know.
You know I have a problem with silent H's.
I would think it's Aura, but that's...
Aura. Let's go with Aura.
Yeah.
He was the cinematographer on the film, and I found myself really liking it. And one of the reasons I really liked it is because it felt so much like a Steven Spielberg film.
Mm-hmm.
This was a film by a guy clearly who was a student of where Spielberg puts the camera, and I thought the movement of the camera in the particularly in the homey areas, when we're moving the camera through the town square, when we're introducing us to the town by way of Billy, when we are, when we're looking at, and then when we move into the more intense sequences, the sneaking around sequences, great use of light. I thought just the striking sort of spotlights, and light ends up being a very important component to the film because it's the thing that can kill the gremlins. And I think we, particularly as we work through the third act, we get a real sense of somebody who understands how to move in and around light and make light a tangible thing. And so I thought he did a really nice job. He doesn't have much in his his career, 22 credits.
Yeah, nothing in the last couple of years.
Nothing in the last couple of years, but those credits also include things like Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and frankly, that's another one that has that sort of a camera innocence that I think he really captured here in Gremlins. I haven't seen much of the other stuff that he did. Obviously, Twilight Zone, I'm a fan of. He did segment 3. I don't remember which one that was. Not that much of a fan, but he also came with Dante because
it was Joe Dante's segment.
Made sense.
Yeah, I mean, he worked on a number of Dante's films. He worked on, like you said, the Twilight Zone and The Howling. Worked on Gremlins, Explorers, Gremlins 2, and Matinee. So yeah, he's had a good run with Dante through his career, and that to me seems like the strongest bits of his career, the ones that stand out for me. I mean, Moonwalker. Actually, I really liked Moonwalker. That was the I'm trying to remember if it was black and white or what, but it was that was kind of that feature Michael Jackson music video thing.
What was that equivalent to, like Captain EO, The Experience, or was it I don't remember.
It was
Moonwalker that much.
I know I saw it.
It was a feature film length.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was a full-on feature that they made with all of the music from the album. And
interesting.
I remember liking it, but I just don't remember anything about it other than the main song. Yeah, but I think you're right. I think that he brings a lot to the table here, and I think by nature, a film about creatures who need it to be kind of dim gives the DP a lot of opportunity to play with those shadows and do some nice stuff all through here. And so I really like it. I think that he did a great job.
How did it do?
This film, it did pretty well for itself. This was a film that was released the same weekend as Ghostbusters. So obviously that kind of comedy horror was kind of at a peak at this point in time. This film cost $11 million to make, so not a ton of money. That was about $24.6 million in today's dollars. It ended up making domestically about $153 million. So yeah, that's a good jump in profits there. That's about almost $343 million in today's dollars. That made for an adjusted profit per finished minute of just over $3 million per minute.
All right. Did all right. It got a sequel.
Oddly enough, it got a sequel, but nobody could figure out what to do with the sequel. And by the time they gave it to Joe Dante and said, here, you do it, and we'll let you do whatever they want or whatever you want with it, it was like a few years too late. That sequel really should have come out a little closer to the original film.
That's interesting. Wait a minute. So how many years apart was it?
6. The sequel came out in 1990.
That makes totally sense.
And it's funny because people always talk about that when sequels come out, especially, I mean, there are these periods now where a sequel will come out and it's a huge amount of time. I mean, even Mad Max Fury Road came out a very long time after the first 3. And I think it boils down to the film and kind of really finding the right way to tap into an audience, especially if it is much delayed. And I don't think Gremlins 2... I think that they did some really clever things with it, but it was not done in a way that could reconnect with an audience that had kind of forgotten what the original was all about.
Yeah, it may have been just a bridge too far in the satire of itself.
Right.
coming 6 years later. Well, I think it's probably time for us to rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com, everybody. You can go to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you can see all of our films that we've ever done. And you can set up your own account, and then you can just start at the top of ours. You just start with Network, number 1, and start ranking. And I think you'll find, because, you're civilized, that Network will stay at the top of yours because we agree. Everything else is a crapshoot. What do you care? Just do it, and let's see what happens.
That's funny.
Roll the dice, Andy.
Gremlins, or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I love Gremlins. I'm going to just say that right now. I love it. It is so much fun for me to watch. I have such a great time with it. And
do you think Joe Dante is listening? Is that the problem?
No, but I will.
We're gonna have?
But I will say that I did get a chance to tell Joe Dante that I love The Burbs. And that is my favorite Joe Dante movie. And it's Tom Hanks, of course, so really no surprise that I love it. But man, do I love that movie. Definitely could be a guilty pleasure down the road. And it was great telling Joe Dante that was my favorite of his. So
where would you put, since we're not going to get it, just off the cuff, Gremlins versus The Burbs?
Oh, The Burbs, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not all right.
No, I'm just saying enough. I love Gremlins. It's absolutely tops for me. But I'm still picking Oh Brother.
Yeah, okay.
See, I can be sane.
Yeah.
Gremlins are the...
I think there's going to be a lot of that.
Well, we'll see here. Gremlins are the Sandlot. It's going to Gremlins.
Yeah, I would go to Gremlins.
All right. Gremlins, or Only Angels Have Wings. I would do Gremlins. I liked Only Angels Have Wings, but there was a lot of story issues I had with that one.
All right, I'll give it to Gremlins.
Gremlins, or A League of Their Own.
League of Their Own.
Oh, I'll go League of Their Own. I have to think about that one for a little bit. Gremlins, or 500 Days of Summer.
500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, I'll do 500 Days of Summer. Gremlins, or The Deer Hunter. I will do Gremlins.
The Deer Hunter. Seriously?
The Deer Hunter is a really solid movie. Gosh, this is going to be hard for me because it's a really, really good movie. It's just, not.
This is gonna. Spoiler. This is not like Gremlins is not like a 4 or 5 star movie for me. I mean, it's barely a 3, maybe 2.5.
What?
Like it's
wow.
Yeah. So this is not hard for me.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. The Deer Hunter is just not a film that I would watch that often. It's a tough film to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just significantly better film.
All right,
more substantial film.
You're right. You're making me feel guilty, so I'm going to pick The Deer Hunter.
Okay.
Gremlins or Sophie's Choice? This is not a Sophie's Choice for me. I'll pick Gremlins. Sophie's Choice relies on the strength of that scene, and I had such a problem with Peter McNichol this last time.
No, you're right. Okay, I'll give you Gremlins.
Gremlins or King's Row? I would do Gremlins.
Over King's Row?
Yes.
Andy.
We rated that 3 stars.
See, that's the problem, is that that's how I feel about this one, too. I mean, it's like right in there. And I like that Ron Reagan.
No, he was great. This one just, it's a fun film. This one is a lot more fun. King's Row, I mean, it's a good movie.
All right, I'm going to give you Gremlins. That's fine.
All right. There you go. 132 out of 216.
Okay. All right.
A little under the middle.
A little under the middle, but a lot of good movies.
We have a lot of good movies.
That's our mantra.
Yes, it is.
A lot of good movies on the list.
You'll be happy to know that it's under Field of Dreams. Your favorite of old 2x4s movies.
Oh, dear.
Oh, too funny.
There you go. It's a good place for it. And again, I think for Letterboxd, I'm a 2.5 stars on this film.
Wow. Really?
And I feel like that may be even a little generous. I like it. I really do. I don't see myself putting it on all that often. Like now I've been reintroduced to it. I feel like I could go another 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of good stuff going on.
There is. There's a lot of fun. It's just kind of,
yeah.
It doesn't take itself seriously. It's just a kind of a fun romp.
Yes. No, I agree with all of those things. I would use the same exact language as you would, but my voice would go down at the end.
It's a fun romp.
It's a fun romp.
But it
and
brings you down.
That's it. No, it brings me. It even brings me up. I'll even say it brings me up. They look like they're having a good time making the film. I've seen it again. I enjoyed it, and now I'm gonna go back and see other movies again.
Other better movies. Okay, well, I'm at 4.5 on this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's higher than I expected.
Really?
Yeah. So we're 3.5 between us?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we are. 3.5.
I can't wait to read the blot spot this week.
I can't either. Oh, dear.
All right. Where do we go from here, Andrew?
Well, we're leaving the holiday season with, and we're kicking off the new year. We're kicking off our 2016 series, Pete. Can you believe it? We're finally getting to the point where the new year is beginning, and we're going to kick it off with Boogie Nights, which I guess isn't really a New Year's film, but it does have a really fantastic New Year's party in it.
We end up picking this movie?
What?
I mean, how did we end up picking this movie?
Because it's great, and because it has a great New Year's scene in it.
That was it? It was just the New Year's.
I think we're hitting
thing?
a struggling point where we're trying to find films that focus on New Year's. We may hit a point where we stop doing New Year's films. And that's just the start of a new series.
Oh, dear.
We should request listeners write in. Tell us other great New Year's films. I mean, Boogie Nights it still fits.
It still fits. Next year may be tough.
Yes, it may.
Oh, I'm a star.
I'm a big, bright, shiny star.
A big, bright, shiny star. All right, Andy. Until the new year, my friend. Happy holidays to everybody. And I'm going to go to bed.
All right. Well, it's not quite midnight, so I got some mogwai in the back room I've got to go feed.
Okay, see, I saw that you had kind of a longer one, and so I found two that are really short.
I see that.
Yeah. This one I thought was really funny. 1 out of 5 stars from Badlands. Gremlins are destructive, deviant creatures whose shenanigans border on delinquency more than whimsical. I saw them as metaphors for spoiled, deviant kids. The ugliness of the critters is what turned my 5-year-old granddaughter off, and so the movie was shut down.
Dang.
Doesn't that remind you of like a senator doing a filibuster?
It does. Wow. The Gremlins, the famous Gremlins filibuster of 1973.
This is why I love Amazon so much. They're deviants and they are destructive deviants and they have shenanigans. Speech Chick 101 is only moderately less excited. Don't waste your time. The movie is awful. Nobody finds it bizarre that this creature can say its own name as well as bright light. I wish I could unwatch this. I also wish I could give it a negative rating.
That is funny. I will say, I did find it very comical that people... I mean, this is a strange creature that essentially can talk and do all sorts of stuff. And people are like, yeah, that's great.
It's great. Let's put it back in a box. Yeah. It seems sentient. Let's lock it in a box.
Go take your creepy creature home and let us grown-ups figure things out.
Yeah. Here, $200 for a sentient creature that can speak?
So funny.
Sure. Buy it. No, this isn't rehashing or starting a whole industry of animal slavery.
Well, Bob gave it 1 star and said, worst movie ever. I bought this movie because of the cute cover, thinking it would be great for my kids. Turns out it's the scariest movie they'd ever watched, creeping them out for weeks to the point where they can't sleep in their own bed. I wish I could give it 0 stars. Not only is it absolutely terrifying and insanely creepy, even for me, a grown man, but the acting and special effects is so poorly done that I was laughing which seemed to be the only comedic part of the film. I got this movie for $2, and it wasn't even worth that. It is the absolute worst movie I have ever seen. The worst parts are when the Gremlins are having a huge party with inappropriate drinking and smoking, when the girl tells her horrific Christmas Eve story about how her father died in the chimney pretending to be Santa, and when the narrator tells us at the end that there might be a gremlin in your house, which put my children in tears. Words can't describe the hatred I have for this movie.
Except for the last 100 words that I have written.
Yeah, except I described it with all these words here. But other than that, words can't describe it.
These reviews are why we do this Amazon bit. These are the ones. Brilliant.
Happy holidays, Amazon.
It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you, and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
Season 5 had some great adaptations, like our Meryl Streep Oscar-nominated performances series. We covered adaptations like Kramer vs. Kramer, Sophie's Choice, and The French Lieutenant's Woman.
It's a real Sophie's Choice between those books. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite at the level of a real Sophie's Choice.
We also did Snowpiercer for our Bong Joon-ho series, adapted from the French graphic novel Le Transpersonnage. Man, I love that movie.
We had our two-part 1939 series that included adaptations like Gone with the Wind, Ninotchka, The Women, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A number of those 1939 movies, like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, also tied into our recent 1940 Academy Award Best Picture nominee series.
Our Naughty Children horror series had creepy adaptations like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, The Innocents, and Children of the Corn.
For our Hayao Miyazaki series, we talked about his take on Lupin III with the Castle of Cagliostro, plus his own The Wind Rises.
Some great listener choice picks too, Viridiana and The Great Escape.
And for our David Mamet Wright series, The Verdict, The Untouchables, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Plus, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from our Shane Black series, adapted from Brett Halliday's novel, Bodies Are Where You Find Them.
Dive into the sources for all of these at thenextreel.com/originals.
Every book you buy helps support the show. Check out thenextreel.com/originals today and find your next read.